How has your life changed since moving abroad? Uh-oh, not the
Goodness, how much
breath.
time do we have? Like,
Not the
let me
breath.
like, my life has changed so much. I'll try to keep it succinct. In a lot of ways, my life has opened up. The way that I even consider myself has opened up. I mean, before I moved abroad, I mean, I'm still analytical, but super analytical, type A, overachiever, lawyer, doing startups, stuff like that. Going abroad gave me the opportunity to really explore my creativity. And now I can consider myself a creative in all the endeavors that I'm doing. So it's that, but also I think I've learned how to manage grief and sacrifice, because I think something that people don't consider is that you may, or at least I'll speak for myself, I realize that there is a grieving process of a life that you could have had, even if you don't want it. Like, especially when it's a roller coaster and you're like, at least if I was in Atlanta, I know it's this, this, and this. Instead of always feeling a little bit of uncertainty or just exhaustion, to be communicating in another language, stuff like that. So there is like that part. Like my life, I think I'm more aware of grief. I'm more aware of sacrifice. I'm more present in my life because no matter how long I've lived here, I'm still other, I'm still foreign, which is fine, but it has an interesting way of keeping you really present. So for me, I would say the biggest things that have changed is that I'm very aware and present most of the time. And I've gotten to explore different aspects of myself as a professional, as a person, and that's been lovely.
I love it. Candice, how has your life changed since moving abroad?
I think for me, I become a lot more confident. And I think similar to Christine, just more self aware. There are so many things that you go through as an immigrant, just from trying to build community to trying to figure out the system to just small things like figuring out how like to get your groceries. Um, and all of those things have made me a more confident woman. And I've learned to accept myself a lot more. There's just been a great deal of acceptance in terms of like my flaws, my limitations, um, just realizing like I don't always have to be strong. I can ask for help. And there's a great deal of vulnerability that comes with that. So I think opening up to that vulnerability of being a foreigner, and sometimes that can be good, sometimes that can feel really bad. I can relate a lot to what Christine said in terms of like the grief and learning to kind of go through that process. I haven't shared it with very many people, not on a large platform, but my mother actually passed away here in Istanbul last year. And that was a very traumatic experience for a variety of reasons. Imagine, going from one weekend to the next, and then all of a sudden being very sick, then having to go to a hospital and navigate that in a foreign language, and talking to doctors and nurses and using Google Translate, and then finally things taking a turn for the very worst and passing away, and just having to navigate that, even having to deal with the U.S. Embassy. And, just FYI, if you or a loved one pass away, the United States government is not going to pay for you to go back to the US. You have to pay for that to be repatriated. And so I think all of that, I had to rise to the occasion. And it showed me that I had a great deal of resilience, and that it was okay for me to lean on other people because I had to. I had no other choice to do that. And so I think for me, it's just helped me to learn to go with the flow. Just go with the flow of life. And I think like those are the biggest changes that I've seen within myself as a woman.
Wow. Well, first off, so sorry for your loss. I mean, I can't even imagine and then having to navigate that in a foreign country. So, wow. You're definitely very resilient for sure. For me, how has my life changed? I think I calmed down a lot. I think that so many things that I probably stressed out about that I thought were important or stressing out over work or whatever. It just wasn't anymore. Also, like you get less involved in consumerism, which I'm very grateful for. I think because, you work so hard that you just end up buying stuff. Amazon make it real easy that you just buying stuff that what happens. And I could care less about those things right now, and I don't really shop as much, and I'm just happier just the way things are. And I think I don't think I know what made me happy when I was in the States. I think, they tell you, get a job, work, and, do things, buy stuff, be places, get the car, get the house. And then somehow happiness should be in between the mix on that. And then when you do it and you're not that happy, you're like, well, wait a minute. Well, then what else, is there? And so before I had moved, and moving abroad wasn't even on my radar, but I traveled extensively. And I remember feeling like every time I left the country, I was happy. And I don't think I was able to pinpoint why, but I knew I had a problem when I remember it was coming from Dulles, and I was in the Uber. No, I was coming from Reagan. I was in the Uber, and I was looking at Airbnb for the next time I was going to leave the country again. I didn't know when that was, but I was like, yo, this can't be good. I just got here, and then that's kind of how that all, went down. So, and